Now, while I'm talking about this, I want you to kind of think about what is similar between this path and the previous path and go ahead and type it into the chat. Um, but again, just kind of talking about what is on here. This one seems very different, using what I know, which is helping kids. Now let's look at year one. So they want to form a nonprofit. They want to start raising money. And then, so they're really wanting to come up with some kind of, business related to helping kids, as you can see up at the top. Now, when it comes to their personal stuff, they're like, okay, let's not forget about family. So they don't have anything specific here in this first year, but they do have other things that they're thinking of for the following years. And then they want to, which is a mix of personal and career growth, is they want to go back to school, get a master's degree in counseling. And so this seems very different from what we saw previously, where it was about, creating, prototypes, creating some kind of Silicon Valley life. But let's keep going. So in the second year, they want to have recruited staff and they wanted to perfect the model that they have for their business, for their nonprofit. They specifically want to make sure that their mom and dad are taken care of. And they want to, do a family vacation to Paris. And then they're hoping that they'll be in their first year of their counseling program. Now, looking at year three, they want to scale their service. Basically, they want to open more nonprofits in Boston and New York City, Washington, D.C. So they've already made it, a great model where they started, but now it's about expansion. And then when it comes to family, they're thinking maybe their parents are getting older. They want to talk about home care for them. But, still looking to see if they can do some traveling, go to the Galapagos Island, while finishing up their second year of their counseling program. Now, looking at the last 2 years for their business, they want to create a much higher impact. They want to really scale the amount of kids that they serve. And they want to make a family tree project, keeping in touch with their roots, really focusing on the family piece. And then they want to graduate from their counseling program and take what they learned from school and from their business to be able to write a book. And then go on a book tour as well as continuing their education. And so this looks quite a lot different from the previous one, but I want you to put in chat, what do you see as similar? And while you do that, we'll look at the dashboards on the bottom. So the resources, again, pretty much in the middle. They do really like this plan though, slightly more than the previous one. They do feel pretty confident in it and they feel like it's a little bit more coherent. The questions that came up with them is, will skills translate? Can I really help kids and will this be meaningful for them? Awesome. So I'm seeing in the chat that one of the things that y'all noticed was family is very important in both plans. Even though they may not have, quite specifics for the first year, they very much want to include family. What's another thing that's similar between these two? Yeah, travel. Being able to travel seems to be a big piece for, this person. They've mentioned at least 4 different places between the two. Raising money to start both. Yes, being able to raise money in order to start their business. Scaling up, having their business or nonprofit grow beyond the small community. Yes. And the one there, they feel confident and hot with both plans. Yes, they like it and they're confident in themselves. But one thing that I like to point out is they want to, create and own a business, even if it's a nonprofit or not, they very much want to be a business owner. And there's different ways that they've decided that they can go about it. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take some time to work on doing an honesty plan. And so, typically, when I'm working with students, I'm like, okay, you want to make at least three alternate plans. And there's a reason we want to do three options. And that's because whenever you only have two and you're working on binary, it's really hard to kind of get away from this binary. It's really hard to, make a decision when there's only two. When there's three, there's a lot more options there. And so so you don't get as stuck. And so usually what I say is like map out what you're currently thinking about, map out what might be in your back of your mind about doing, and then, really thinking about what's another realistic path that you may take. And so I want you all to try filling out your one of your paths. And I want you to really think about what is it you want to do in the next 5 years? What career do you want to go? What do you want to do when it comes to your personal life? And just kind of fill this out. Like I said earlier, it's easier to be more descriptive in the earlier years, and it can be a little bit more vague in the later years. But really, the point of this is for you to really try and map out what you kind of want to do. So year one starts right here. So you can make that decision yourself. Like, do you want year one to start today? Or do you want it to start a month from now? Or, maybe you want year one to start January 1st. And so go ahead and, do this yourself. You can just type on a computer, write on a piece of paper, whatever is easier for you. And as you all are working, I do want to say, like, this is something that can change pretty often. And you'll find yourself at the end of a 5 year plan. And then you'll be like, oh, wait, I've made it. Like, what do I do now? I had that feeling myself when I finished my PhD program. I was like, oh, this was the end goal for this current plan. So, like, now what do I do? And really, it was like, okay, let me start thinking about what I want to do for the next 5 years. What if end goals come sooner? That's awesome. Well, if an end goal does come sooner, then, you know, it means that, maybe it's time to think about what you want to do after that goal. Because remember, life design isn't just about the end goal, it's continuous. And so if it does end up coming sooner, then it's like, okay, I've made it. What do I want the next year to look like still? And I can say for me, like, once I started this job, I was like, you know what? I think that because I've spent so much time on my career and my academics, like, I kind of want to be a bit more stable with my work for right now. And so my 5 year plan doesn't change too much when it comes to my career. But I do have more personal projects and stuff that I do kind of focus on. Feel free at the bottom, rate yourself on resources, rate yourself on the appeal it has for you, how confident you feel in doing it, and how coherent it is. And then what questions are coming up for this path. So it's a few minutes since we started. How are people doing? Are you finding this simple? Or are you finding it hard to kind of put things into words? This was thrown at you right now, so I can understand if it's like, oh, I haven't thought about this. But, it's also important to just check in on how you're feeling when it comes to this. Finish up what you're doing. It's okay if you don't completely finish for a year. But the point of this was to just get you to really start thinking about what you want out of life. Awesome. So we have some questions from, what this would look like. Can I do this? Will I be successful? How do I find mentors for all this? Those are really big questions. And those are often questions, especially those first two, of that a lot of people have when it comes to a career. And so, part of it is working on like, okay, how will I know I can do this? Is this about not knowing, or is it about confidence, or is it about something else? Will you be successful? Maybe. It's hard to say from right now. The hope is always there to be successful, but how can you maybe work at it so it's less of a gamble? And how do I find mentors for all of this? That's a great question as well. And part of that is through networking, through talking to professors, through really just kind of reaching out to people, like I had mentioned earlier, asking for help from radical collaboration and like really just trying things out. Oh, it looks like one more person put their stuff in there. So quickly summarize that. Looking into travel, and moving, explore different programs in other countries, the letters of rec and stuff from professors. That's always, you know, fun to do, asking. Taking family for vacation, moving abroad, looking at ecology or ornithology for your graduate school, continue research, maybe exploring relationship. Yes, getting a job so you can, you know, not die in the streets as a poor grad student. I was there. I was definitely there on a grad stipend. And then, graduate or continue research, and then maybe apply for a PhD. Do I have the funds? That's a big question for anyone going to grad school. And there's different ways to kind of look for funding, like either through the program, through grants or loans, or a lot of schools do have graduate assistantships, which would, for working about 20 hours a week, will give you a small stipend and pay for most or all of your classes, depending on the school. Will I get accepted to an overseas program? That's always a big question. Um, there's only so much in your control, but when you focus on what you can control, then you can at least say, hey, I did my best. And will I be prepared to leave my family? That's hard. It's hard to do if you've never lived without your family before. Um, and so that's something you may find out later on. And then there's a question about, is there more than teaching-based assistantships? Yes, depending on the school. I can say, for instance, here in career services, we have a graduate assistant who does career coaching. When I was a graduate assistant, mine was a little bit more specialized because I was in the counseling program, so I was working in our counseling clinic. Yes, and as Alyssa said, there's also research and administrative GA options. All right. Well, I hope that, like, thinking about your future and stuff was fruitful in some ways. A few key ideas to remember. Always clarify what matters to you. Turn that clarity into intentional steps forward. And overall, just understand that you have options and can create a life that you want. And so I have a few things I just want to share about career services and then pretty much be done. So we can help you with application materials, exploring major and career options. We host a variety of workshops as well as partnering with the Grad Academy on stuff. For workshops, we have a CV workshop coming up as well. Practice interviewing skills. We do mock interviews. Help you just stand out in this job market, and help with all the job searching. This is our main website. It's called careerlaunch.unlv.edu if you want to scan that QR code. We have lots of great information here on our website. And then this is where all of our events are. So we have a few different types of events, similar to this one, Designing Your Life, where we talk about different parts of design, life design. We also have our career connections where we have employers from the area come and talk about what it was like for them to get into their position. And then we also just have virtual sessions where we do, talk about several other topics. And then if you haven't been on Handshake, I highly suggest getting on there. It's a great place to look for jobs. It's where you can schedule an appointment with a career coach. It's also where you can find all the events that are career related on campus. And then finally, you can contact us. Our information is on here. We are located at the Gateway building for now, but we're kind of being put into different places across campus as well. So, but you'll see where we are on Handshake, as well as we do have our drop-in hours Wednesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 4 in the Academic Success Center. And with that, that is all I have.
Yeah, well, I just want to thank you so much, Chris, for providing this workshop today. I think it so aligns well with Grad Rebel Advantage. I want to encourage you all to utilize career services. They could help you with this grad application process in addition to your mentors and the other campus partners. So yeah, wonderful resources, wonderful learning opportunities. And I also want to encourage you all to continue these sorts of conversations within your Grad Rebel Advantage cohorts. Yes, your mentors are there to help guide you in the graduate education journey, but other aspects of life are a part of that, right? So it's okay to have these whole picture conversations throughout the year, and I just want to remind you of that. So thank you again, Dr. Hughes, and thank you all for joining us for the first workshop of Grad Rebel Advantage 2025-2026. I hope you got a lot out of it, and we will certainly be in touch. So, bye, everyone.